everyone, hope you're doing well. Right, so we're going to continue with My Love to Remember, and so this is the guitar solo. So I've labelled this part 3A because I'd like to do a part 3B where I can just do a couple of variations on maybe a kind of a rhythm part we could use to accompany the solo. As you've seen, this is just the version like the record with just lead guitar and bass. But I thought it might be nice in another video just to do like a couple of ways we could accompany that based on the lessons we've done previously, 1 and 2. Right, so let's just have a quick look at, the first couple of chords, which we'll be playing over. So as you can hear in the track, I've started with just like the end of a verse. So I've just done like a whole bar with 2 beats on E and then 2 beats on B7. You know what, I've been thinking about some of these last videos, and I'm sure I've been mixing up sometimes, saying beats and bars. Oh, so I hope you're not been too confused. It should just make sense looking and counting, along, watching my hand. Anyway, so I've sort of started this solo, using the end of a verse, just a full bar, just 2 beats on E. Each of those is triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Often it's something like that, like you'll see in the tab. Maybe for the first sort of, triplet and the first beat, I'll play, sort of the first 4 strings. Obviously I'm playing the low E, just to kind of emphasise that, but maybe just the rest of those then, the second pair of triplets, and then as the triplets on the second beat. Maybe I'll just play on the sort of 5th, 4th and 3rd strings. So it just kind of enters with a little more power, then just pulls back a little bit, and then we'll do the same on the B7. So we've got 2 beats on B7, and I'll just play, kind of the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, maybe the 2nd string, or in the second, or in the last beat, B4. For those triplets, maybe I'll bring in the open B string. It's not really thought about too much or really, intentional. There's no kind of set plan. The idea is just you're just using dynamics, so your hand kind of naturally pulls away from some of the strings just to play less, and then when you want more power, you play more of the strings. You'll often play some of these strings just a little, just by accident, just by sort of strumming a little harder. So we've got just a full bar there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now that very, very last triplet, just so we can, sort of move up into our position, we'll play the open 1st and 2nd string. That'll give us a chance to slide up to this 7th fret on the 1st string, 9th fret on the 2nd string. So for the first half of this solo, really kind of Eddie just plays on 2 strings, and then he kind of fleshes it out more in the second half and plays like this kind of these ideas on 3 strings. So we'll slide up to the 7th fret on the 1st string, 9th fret on the 2nd string, which is basically an E major. Later we'll play it as the 3-string version. So here we're just outlining the chords. So we're on an E. So coming from the... So slide in, we play that 4 times. And then 4th fret on the 1st string, 5th fret on the 2nd string, which again is just an abbreviated version of this E major. Oops. Don't want that augmented chord yet. So there's an E, Because then we'll just play the open 1st and 2nd stringers again. So because these are all on 2 strings, these are just, really forms of E, because that's what the harmony is at the moment. triads in rock and roll and rockabilly. All these are not triads at the moment, but this kind of thing, and as we move into triads, they're so important and they play a real huge part in the rockabilly sound. There's a lot of that kind of thing in Scotty Moore's work, which we'll take a look at. Like in Blue Moon of Kentucky, that's got that. Let's think. So I don't want to sort of go off the rails too much, but just those little movements and knowing sort of the various positions of triads, it's so important, and that's really what this My Love to Remember solo is kind of built on, knowing these kind of little positions of what is in, here's an E. So the reason I'm mentioning that is so that, when you're playing these kind of things, you're not thinking anything, any more than you're just playing, things that work over an E. So now we move to our B7. So similar to what this E was here, we'll do that now. As we move to the B here, so we're on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, 4th fret of the 2nd string. And again, play that 4 times. So this B is moving back to an E chord. So to get there, we're going to pass through, again, this E. Just on 2 strings, 4th fret on the 1st string, 5th fret on the 2nd string. And now 5th fret on the 1st string, 7th fret on the 2nd string. And kind of going on what I've just been talking about with this kind of, this shape. When we reach it here at the 5th fret on the 1st string, 7th fret on the 2nd string, it might be easy to think that this is, well, if, we're following this kind of pattern, well, it's just a D major. But it's not. These little, these 2-string abbreviated things we're doing can often function in a variety of, context. So we just look at a B here. 7th fret, but I'll just play this on the first 4 strings. If we put our little finger on the 9th fret of the 2nd string, if I do that, I no longer have to really bar. I can just now use my 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 1st string. So that's just down a B6. So I'm just playing that with 4 strings. If I just think about the first 3 strings, I'm just going to sort of, modify my fingering then, just because I'm going to use the first 3 strings. So this is, effectively a B6, or in other contexts, it can be a B13. But don't worry too much at the moment. The idea is that this shape is kind of working for a B. 7th fret 1st string, 8th fret on the 3rd string, and 9th fret on the 2nd string. Now with these shapes, we can always move them down 2 frets. And that's still functioning in a B. So if I look at, what my fingers are doing there, I'm on the 5th fret on the 1st string, 7th fret on the 2nd string, and now 6th fret on the 3rd string. But for me, what's important is that I'm now, and I realise that this movement I did before, it's not out to do anything to do with a D major. It's just a form of B, which is what we're in, because we're moving back to the E. We're over a B. So it's really just an abbreviated version of this shape we've just been using in B, but we're just doing it on 2 strings. Again, I'm just talking about that just so that these kind of notes that are just popping up, that they're not just random, but also they're not too complicated. We're just working over 2 chords at the moment, E to a B. So now we're going to move back into the E shape, but this time as a triad, using 3 strings. So 7th fret on the 1st string, 9th fret on the 2nd and 3rd strings. We'll play that 3 times. Move our 1st finger up to the 8th fret, play it again 3 times. There's our E augmented, like we did in the rhythm. So far we're up to. Obviously now we move to the A. So the 9th fret on the 3rd string, 10th fret on the 2nd string, and 9th fret on the 1st string 4 times. Which is kind of, 1 full triplet and 1 extra note. My little finger, I play the 11th fret of the 1st string, and then take it off and play the 1st string, which is still being fretted at the 9th fret. So with this extra note, I don't strum through, but the chord is still kind of ringing through a little bit. That's just an A, and that's I'm playing an A major here, and I play the 4th fret of the 2nd string. In a different context, that has really got this kind of Lydian sound. It's completely in that sort of excuse me, in that context, completely different. But here it's just used in kind of passing. So then back to the E shape, we do a triplet, and then 1. That 2nd triplet, we're moving through an E, through an A, 6th fret 3rd string, 5th fret on the 2nd and 1st strings, 1st fret on the 3rd string, and then open 2nd and 1st, which is an E. So we've got a triplet here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now to the B. This is kind of like implying more like a B9. We're playing the 2nd fret on the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings. So play again a triplet, and then the 1st triplet of the next beat. And we move this shape. So we move that same shape up to the 4th fret on the 3rd, 2nd and 1st strings. And again, this is kind of like a B6. And that's the great thing about often these triads and these things. They can just, and it's just through experience and learning different songs and just playing around with these things, you'll learn sometimes that it works and it sounds great. Another time you'll try it and it'll just be not necessarily a disaster, but it just doesn't have the desired effect. And it'll just take, just trying these things, experience, learning more songs with them to get more of a sense of, when and how to use them effectively. The idea at the moment is just not to think too much. This is over a B. Again to the A. It's just a kind of reaching this peak and going shifting back down. finishing that last beat with just a triplet on sort of E, more like the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we finish on the B7. And again, I'll probably, because we played this for 2 beats, I'll probably just play the first, you know, the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Play a triplet on that, and then just the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. Then I'm just finishing on an E major. And again, these things with the B7, I'm not thinking about, right, I'm going to play this string, then I'm not playing that. It's just because I'm, you know, backing off on the kind of intensity that, you know, other strings ring out less. So it's thinking of that. And the same with the solo. So if you listen to Eddie's version, there's a real, it's not just all played out, you know, like full belts. There's a real sort of peaks and valleys in the way he uses his dynamics in it. So it's a, you know, it's a little more tricky than you know, you might think. And these things, try and get them a little more accented before these changes. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. In the next sort of part B of this, like I said, I'll do just, you know, a couple of versions with like a rhythm, just to give us an idea of what it might sound like with that. It's great to actually practice with just the bass for the reason of practicing dynamics and listen to yourself to try and play something and create something that that isn't just all at one dynamic. And then sort of in part 4 of this kind of... I don't know, I suppose if you want a series, I'm going to look at some of the kind of things I do if I'm playing this more free form. Like if I just, you know, I just want to play through this song, but I'm... Things like that, which, again, like all of these things, they're not complicated. It's just knowing... you know, a handful of ideas which work over a chord, and then using the kind of rhythm and the feeling of a song to express this same vocabulary, but just in a different context, so it'll come out differently. So we'll look at that in part 4. So yep, check it out, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.